Welcome to the Mind Movers podcast. Today we have an incredible dentist who is one of the top orthodontists in the country, an incredibly inspiring woman, Annika. Payman knows I rarely invite dentists on the podcast because that's his thing with dental leaders. But when I feel that somebody has something really special and a story to tell, I think it's really important to share it to the wider community because obviously Mind Movers is about reaching different types of audiences. So welcome, Annika. We know that, you are a incredible dentist working in London. You've been an orthodontist for how many years?
10 years.
10 years.
In private practice, yeah.
You're also a mother of two.
Yes.
And your husband is also an owner of a practice that you work at as well, yeah?
In Essex, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And I know that you have other hobbies as well. We talk about your boxing, your yoga and other things. And I think one of the reasons why I was drawn to you is because you are somebody that likes to do different things outside of dentistry. You like to interact with people that are outside of dentistry. And for me, that's like really important. So welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have
Thanks
you.
for having me.
So I like to start from the beginning, like some people have like very varied childhoods where they like tell us like, they really struggled. There's some people, we had a guest last week that was like, my childhood was amazing. Like, as in like, there's nothing really to tell. But for me, it's always interesting because I think, our childhood certainly shapes who we are. So tell us a little bit about your background and, how you grew up.
So I would say I realised that my childhood for me was normal until I got to uni. I was, I don't come from a very privileged background, had to work really hard. When I mean work really hard, as soon as got my NI, it's get to work in retail, do all of this stuff. I ended up working in Currys for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Because as a customer services agent, which is how I got the job with Nick and Martin, because they were like, God, you're a grafter. You worked for 7 years at Currys. I was like, yeah. I used to, do these like long weekend shifts and then work in sort of the local hospital as well and just, working like mad hours and mad weeks. And, you're like, oh, I'm 18 and I'm rich. What do I do? And then, because that your parents don't have a lot or anything like that, it's one of those situations that you're not a spender. You're not sort of, let me buy everything. Let me look at this. I've got money in my account. It was sort of, it's instilled from you from such an early age that you've actually got to, save, invest, look after the people around you, that sort of thing. So, I had friends around me that were like, working in Next or, anywhere. And they were just like, oh my God, got my paycheck. Like, literally splash the cash type thing. But I know it's been difficult, it's a struggle. I did go to private school, but it was a struggle. It was literally get the grades or you lose your assisted place. Like, do this.
So were you on a scholarship?
Yeah. So partial, yeah. And, it was a struggle. And it was always, I've got Asian parents. They're, from Uganda. They came here via refugee. Is kind of one of those situations where you're like, I've got to do what I can do because I either stay working Currys for the rest of my life or I do something else, They were never pushy parents. They were never sort of like, study. I had a lot of freedom as a child because I've had to mature really, really fast. I remember starting work and everyone was so much older than me and I just had to kind of learn things, and that's good and bad. I fell into wrong crowds, so didn't get the grades, there's a lot that I learned, but I always learn lessons from negatives. Like, there's no way about it. And that's literally why I know when I first met you, you were like, God, I can't break you type thing. You're very resilient and in that kind of way. But I've had so many situations because I'm not a conformist. I just do what I want when I want, but I'm mature enough to know situations.
Yeah.
Do you think that working in retail gives you a wonderful sort of exposure to different types of people?
It does. It's, customer services at Currys wasn't amazing. It's like, oh God, my cooker's broken, it's Christmas. You're like, all right, great. Now what, that sort of situation. But working when you're young and doing different types of things and seeing how businesses run and seeing, at that time, nothing was electronic. I mean, I'm showing my age a little bit. It was very like type Y-N, like it was that situation, So it was different. It wasn't as, it wasn't as easy as it is now. And you had a lot of responsibility. Sickness was taken seriously. Nowadays I don't think sickness is, anyone can call in sick and you ring a temp agency, don't you? I remember back then they used to monitor on a percentage and say, you've had more than 6%, you get a disciplinary, and that's retail, So all of these things you take, and even the people I worked with on the desk, they were like, you know what, Annie, why don't you sit at the back and, study? You've got your, all through dentistry. I was at dental school working in Currys, And they'd be like, sit at the back.
Did you work throughout the dental course as well?
Yeah.
Wow. But hold on, I want to know, how did you get into dentistry? Was it something you fell into? Was it something your parents, your parents encouraged you? Because obviously, as you said, like being a Middle Eastern, for me, it was like medicine, dentistry, law, engineering. I'm sure same, like Iranian background, like, you've got your kind of like degrees, but then the degrees that are considered to be kind of credible. I'm lucky that I love dentistry. I speak to a lot of dentists. I'm sure you do that. Like, I only did it because of my parents, because of like culture. What was your story for dentistry?
So I didn't fall into it. I wasn't an academic throughout school. I actually played in orchestra. I had 3 instruments. I used to do orchestra after school. I played double bass, clarinet, piano. Piano was an orchestral thing. That was my life, and I could paint. So I did a lot of art and music. So I did, art took over basically, because you have to provide a lot of quality and quantity. So I did, it's like, screw science, no one cares. About year 9, year 10, I applied to be a young presenter, TV presenter for GMTV with Fern Cotton, and I got through to the final 4.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time that I thought I was winning, and then I lost, that first heartbreak that you have. It was, a bit of a struggle actually, because I went to school and it was all about league tables and it was all about doing well, and I wasn't an academic, I was a 50-50, So I was like, yes, I'm going to get out of school, I'm going to leave school, I'm going to go to drama school, I'm going to, do all of this other stuff. And spent a year kind of, training myself through auditions, passing auditions. I'm like, God, I'm bloody good at the creatives.
Yeah.
This is something I'm good at, after not being good at so many things. And then obviously it didn't go well. Then the school were like, you have to like tone it down now. You need to go to school. You need to do your GCSEs. You need to do separate sciences. We're choosing your subjects for you. You're not allowed to do art and music at the same time. You choose one. If you want to do art, you need to do it after school. My whole life just got laid out, not by my parents, but by the school I went to, which was, it's ridiculous because it's not me, And I was good at stupid things like electronics, It's like really stupid things. And I was like, fine, but going into A-levels, I'm still going to carry on my art because that was who I was. That was literally... and then even when I got my A-level results, at that time you had to get an A and 2 Bs to get into dental school. Now, I was going to do history of art at uni. I wasn't doing dentistry. And the 8 people in my art A-level were all going for fine art, going to Wimbledon, going to Goldsmiths. Everybody, we were all on the same course. The people that had reached this, at our school, it was pretty strict. So if you'd reached your ceiling in art, then you weren't allowed to sit the A-level basically, because you couldn't do any more. So for me, they were like, no, there's so much you can do. Like, you haven't reached your potential, keep going, kind of thing. I got my A, obviously got my A in art. But my school refused to let me apply for dentistry because I was too thick, basically. So they said I had to apply for biomedical sciences before that. I wasn't happy with that because I didn't really want to do biomed. I didn't want to do science. Like, it wasn't really my thing. So I had to beg them. I literally had to talk them into letting me do a maths AS level, just to kind of have the 4th subject or whatever. I went to my interviews as well for dental school, like, without the grades. I was like, look at my extracurricular. I do this.
So they accepted you for the interviews? Yeah.
They accepted me for the interviews. They accepted me with my art portfolio, which was this big, that I took from my manual dexterity. They got very excited by a sweet corn batik that I did, because they'd never seen a batik, which is like silk with wax, and then you blur the...
Where did you study?
King's. For everything. Guys, for everything.
So then you got the grades then after that. So they gave you...
I just got the grades.
So gave you conditional offer, I'm assuming, 3A. I mean, they gave me...
It was A2Bs, but the A could be in any subject. So then when I picked... when you went to get your A-level results, they basically were like... There was an envelope, and they were like... could you please ring King's College and actually ask them if you can get in with an A in art? And I was like, wow, this is going to keep going the whole of my life, hey?
Yeah.
And then got to dental school, and I was like, who the hell are these people?
Same. I mean,
what is this?
I will never forget.
Which people? The other students?
Yeah, not my type.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, because this is one thing that we always talk about. I will never forget, really weirdly, I went to go visit Bristol. 2 of my friends, they were studying English and politics, because when I was at school, I was really, like, good. I was really good at chemistry, actually, but I was amazing at English lit and philosophy. And I ended up choosing English lit and philosophy, and for A-level, and that was fine. And my teachers were like, she's got to go to Oxford. Like, they took me to Oxford and they were like, she's got to go here. And obviously at that time I was like really like love like the whole Harry Potter thing that was going on in Oxford, and like these like Prince William type guys, and I'd never seen that growing up in kind of like London. And I wanted to go to Bristol, and Bristol, I guess I wanted to go because I felt like it would suit me more socially, and Bristol rejected me. So Bristol gave me the interview and they rejected me, and I'll never forget the interview. Like, I literally went with probably hair similar to this, earrings, a suit, like all this stuff, and you could tell they didn't like me immediately, and they were asking me really weird questions, cut the interview short, and then I got a rejection. And then my mum's, and I was devastated. So what happened is that after that, when I got my Leeds interview, my mum said, tone down who you are, wear a plain suit, no jewellery, no makeup, straighten your hair, and just basically talk about how passionate you are about the NHS. And guess what? I got the place. And it's really sad because I tell this story because I felt like I had to be someone I wasn't to get a place into dentistry, because I feel like the people that choose the applicants choose it based on some kind of like ideal they have. I don't know, he's giving me a dirty look. I don't know what that means. But wait for it. Yeah. Then I got to dental school at Leeds and I was the same as you. I was like, who are these people? They were just not my people. And because I went to Leeds as well, a lot of them were like, you sound really posh, and I was like, okay. And they were kind of making fun of my accent and stuff.
Look, university is about meeting people who are not your people. That's what university is. But I'm surprised you were surprised, because you'd met all these people in Currys and all that. So I would have thought you'd be able to deal with.
Well, I'm from South London.
Anyone?
Yeah, she's from South London.
I'm not from North London, and the whole of Kings is North London. And
right?
Yeah, it's different. It's very different.
But what I was going to say though, maybe you rubbed these people up the wrong way with your hair. Yeah, it's possible. But I remember with my interviews, I said something in one of them, and it went down really well. And I said the exact same thing in another one, and it went down like a lead balloon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was a bit political or something, maybe.
But I personally think that dental school is so old school. Sorry, excuse the pun, but like, it is, for me, dental school is about choosing people that fit a stereotype. That's what I believe. And they want to see that you're the kind of person that will give your soul to an institution, basically. That's what I think. And also, even now, when I speak to dental students, their professors really sadly slag off like Instagram dentists, or even technology. Like, they might say like, oh, look at this dentist that's done like a bioemulation technique, and an old school professor, it doesn't work, it will fail immediately. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's so backward. That's my personal view.
You know what, it's skewed a little bit in that when you're a student, the only dentists you meet are university teachers. And university teachers are a very particular type of dentist. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, they're 2% of all dentists, but that's the only type of dentist that you meet.
Yeah.
And so, you're right, those guys are more conservative.
Yeah.
I think when you've done the full loop like I have, where I know how you feel, and I remember being like that, and you're right, you do meet your people. So I was lucky, I did meet my people, and they were luckily all from Streatham and South London, and I did meet my little group, and I've got really good uni friends that I'm still friends with, and I did struggle because the holidays, everyone else was going on holiday and I was going to Currys, and my shirt was going from blue to yellow to, that kind of situation.
Dental course is hard enough without working. How many hours a week were you working?
So I was doing, all of the summers I was doing pretty much 9 to 5 at the hospital.
Full time?
Yeah, on the PCT, because I was doing a little project, like, when someone has like an MRI, I was like the person with the, what's that word, corpus callosum? That sort of, I did everything, did stapling, I did anything on the bank. I was a bank staff, right? And I was doing that as soon as I got my NI. So I wasn't allowed to climb ladders until I got my card, but I was pretty much there. So I ended up working in every department, in cardiology, everything around the hospital. So I knew how the NHS worked, I knew how hospitals worked, and then I'd come out, the 289 bus would be there, and then I'd get the bus around to Currys.
Wow.
And then I'd do the 5 till 8 shift. So I would do that constantly every time we had like the 8-week break, or
My goodness.
And I did it, and it was for me, it didn't feel like it wasn't sort of like, some people get they see the numbers stacking up in their bank account and that's what gives them value, but for me it just felt like security. That's what it was. I never used to check my accounts or anything, it felt like security. So, and it helped because I had to put myself through dental school. I had to also pay for the ortho, you know. It's
Yeah, well, like, let's talk about that. So when you graduated, did you ever have a period of working in general practice?
I did. So like I did with Curry's all the way through dental school, I worked in my VT practice in Brixton all the way through ortho as well. So I did the same thing, but like on a Saturday.
So when did you decide you wanted to be an orthodontist?
So I had a bit of a rubbish VT experience.
Brixton, I was going to say, imagine.
Yeah, no, my VT trainer just decided not to be
There
supportive or there or anything. I think it's quite easy sometimes just to take the money and run and then just keep, you know.
Yeah, you do hear stories.
Yeah. My VT trainer was very supportive, to be honest. Go on.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a situation like that. And I'm a strong enough character to be like, you know what, let me just get my phone out and ring someone from, you know, ring a friend of a friend from King's who's an SHO at the moment, or what should I do, or this denture doesn't fit. So I had enough common sense to say, actually, don't panic, you know, there's stuff that you can do. But, you know, I wasn't getting that support at all, and I couldn't really work out is this what I want to do? Is this actually what I want to do? Because I was told to do all this stuff, and then I thought I changed to dentistry in A-levels only because like my friends were doing it and stuff like that, and I was like the FOMO of, oh, should I do art? Nothing made sense to me. So the educational head, the TPD, had a meeting with me. He took me for a jack of potato, and he's just asked me a few random questions about GIC and stuff. And he's like, oh, I just don't think you're a bad dentist. You seem to know everything. I was like, oh, I know everything, but I don't have the support. Like, you know, I get it. Everyone has a different style of teaching, but I just don't believe people should be a teacher if they can't teach, you know? And I teach and train and do things like that now. And when I see some of the knowledge that people are absorbing from just back-to-back 50 slides on a PowerPoint versus, you know, actually stand up, tell me what you want, you know, it's just different techniques, essentially, you know. So, you know, I don't begrudge my VT trainer, it's fine. But on the back of that, I was just like, I'm going into SHO, forget this. As soon as I went into SHO, you know...
Did you like it?
Met my people. It was amazing. So everybody that does SHO...
Back in guys.
So I did a few. I did St. George's, guys, Max Vax, you know, peds...
It's interesting that you say that, because obviously you know Lida, she's one of my best friends, and she said to me her SHO year was one of the most difficult years of her life.
Me too.
She
said she was in Oxford, and, you know, she was doing all the like Christmas shifts and all that stuff, and like she said that she'll never forget the first day she was put into hospital. And obviously, like, there's the overlap with medicine, right? Because she was doing max fax, and then basically they threw her into a ward, and I think someone had like lung problems, and they were like, do something. And she was like, but I don't know, I'm a dentist. Like, well, the patient's going to die then. You know, it was very like a bullying kind of thing, especially with the consultants, and she found it really difficult.
So that is true of max fax.
Yeah.
But, the 90, like the oral surgery P's, all the dental specialties, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
To the point that the oral surgery floor 23 guys, I ended up skiing with them every year from age 21 to when I had my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm going again Jan, so I'm back again, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's just different. It's different types of people. They're not sort of money orientated. They're not business orientated. They're kind of, you know, they're just different people.
Mission orientated.
Yeah, they're just, it's completely different.
Yeah.
You know, during COVID, all they cared about was their waiting lists. You know, really like, no, we need to get all these teeth, we need to extract. Even if everyone's splitting the day into 3 sessions, we'll get it done. Like, they're completely different mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah, max fax, like, I do understand, because nobody teaches you to deal with death in dentistry. Yeah. People do die on max fax wards, and again, that just builds you, because you know you're going into max fax not to become an orthodontist, but because actually, what am I going to take from this? How's that going to change me or build me?
I don't know why she did that pre-ortho, actually. I don't know why.
Oh, well,
We
you
had
have to.
to.
Sometimes.
You have to some-
You
yeah.
have to do max fax, yeah.
So you didn't have to, though,
I
or
did
did
do
you?
max
So,
fax.
so
I
you
did
did it
at St. George's.
afterwards?
No, I did it at St. George's.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so I went to guys and went to St. George's.
So how did you know ortho was your thing to do?
It wasn't, actually. So I was between, again, because I can't, very indecisive. So it's between oral surgery and ortho, yeah, because obviously I was really good friends with the oral surgeons. I'm obviously, you know, I like the fact that I've got manual dexterity. I know I wire.
You're clearly an artist as well, you said, yeah.
I like wire bending and stuff like that. For specialty training, I don't think anyone knows what they really, really want to do, and all anyone ever tells you is you're never going to get in. It's sort of, you know, needle in a haystack situation. So actually, one of my cousins gave me the advice of get a blank form, try and fill it out, just see what you got. Just try and fill it out and then build on it. So I did, and I literally said, oh my God, I can fill out the whole application form. So I did, and I sent it. Like, that was it, really. But then when you go through the interview process, it's the same shit again. It's literally like
Well,
panels.
because I'm sure there's lots of people that are very curious. So it's a hugely competitive specialty, hugely. So do you know any of the stats, like how many people actually get in and stuff like that?
I don't really know the stats because things have changed. You know, I got in, 13, 14 years ago, so things have definitely changed. And for me, it was sort of based London, the North, it was different, and now it's national.
So what do they judge you to get in for? So when you apply, how do they judge you? Like how do they give you a place?
So you fill out a form, and you have to have a publication, you have to have done an audit, show evidence of clinical governance, had a bad thing happen to you, or a difficult situation like A&E, or, you know, fractured mandible, something like that. And then when you go to, say, a deanery interview, it's a set thing where you have different 3 panels. You might have one on academics, one on clinical governance, one on just extra bits and bobs. And then it's panels of 4, and then they just score you based on your answers. I know that I probably didn't pass any of those panels because I didn't really know what they were talking about, to be fair. I was just like, well, what are you actually asking me? You know, what? And have you done your MJDF? That's another tick point, right?
Bloody MJDF, I did that too.
Did you?
Paid for it for years, and then I got rid of it. I was like, what's the point of paying? You know?
Oh, it's silly. But you have to have your MJDF Part 1 to be able to do the RCS for the MOrth and stuff like that. But I know the only reason I got it in was because I think, and I'll name him, Martin Coben, last panel, came in. I think he'd had enough of all of these people coming in. So, Annie, what was the last book you read? What's the last book I read? Okay. And I think he'd heard To Kill a Mockingbird maybe 56 times. And I was just like, they're giving away a free Rick Stein's new cookbook. It was free on the tube because it's World Book Day. I was like, just read it on the tube, basically. It's all right. Heavy seafood.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. And then I just saw his eyes light up, and he was just like, having a conversation. I was like, yeah, it's a conversation. It shouldn't be so hardcore. Life shouldn't be so intense. Like, you know, just because you've got this criteria and this kind of syllabus, you know, you can be outside the box, you know. I mean, I believe that space is the dimension. Like, I literally believe this one thing that Matisse said: space is the dimension of your imagination. So you can do anything, you can be anything, you can do everything, but you can't conform. You can't just be 1 to 10 on a list, or, you know, that kind of thing.
But this is what I try to say, that is that people, they want, especially like when I was studying dentistry, they wanted people to conform. And I just found it really, really, there was a couple of like professors, I still remember them, and bless him, like one of the dean apparently now like talks with me with pride at Leeds, and he just retired. And the students asked me to do a video for him because apparently because he was he was actually an endodontist and he was a dean. And like, I think he saw, because the funny thing is I wanted to, another similarity, I wanted to be a TV presenter as like another job. If people ask me, what would you do if you weren't a dentist? I would have loved to be a TV presenter.
Why?
Loved it. Because, she loves it.
I applied, didn't I?
Yeah. But like, come on, like podcasting in a way is TV presenting. Like, think about it, it's presenting, right? So for me, I was always comfortable in front of the camera, and I just loved it. Like 3 years old, like you'd see my dad like with the video camera, like push my sister out the way, and I'm like dancing away, and I just loved it. And I always felt like I could connect with a camera and an audience really, really well. And I felt that, you know, you could always kind of like portray a message. But if I'm honest with you, one regret I have in my life is that I think I had self-limiting beliefs. Number one, because of the narrative that only one person in like a billion makes it as a successful TV presenter. Number two, that you know, within like the Middle Eastern like society and the way that I was brought up, it was like, well, you've also got a shelf life, like how long are you going to do it for, and then like how are you going to have money after that? So that was all that. And it was interesting because I was listening to Maya Jama, I think, like her story, and Maya said that when she was like 13 she knew she wanted to be a TV presenter, or even younger, and she put it like on her vision board that even like by like 25 she was going to be like presenting the Brits or whatever it was. And I was like, you know, like I truly am a believer that if you really want to do something, you can make it happen. And I think it was probably the self-limiting belief that made me believe that I couldn't do it.
But the fact you know that is the most important thing, because for most people within what we do, somebody tells them you're shit, you're a crap dentist, that's what they believe, and their self-esteem and their self-worth, everything, just, they can't even do dentistry, you know. You just feel like you probably can't even communicate with those patients because they haven't, you know, strength is something, you know, it's like gym, you build it over time and from the lessons that you've had and things like that. But if you know yourself and you know what the problem is, for a lot of people they don't know that.
Yeah. Okay.
Annika, tell me, I'm interested in this question. You're saying, don't conform, think outside of the box, be yourself, all of these things. How did you translate those sort of ideas into ortho training? How are you looking at things differently to the next?
Quite interestingly, I bumped into another professor in the London Bridge the other day, and I said, Prof McDonald, let's take a selfie, number one. Number two, thank you so much for your advice. He said, what was that? Do something different to the other orthodontists. I said, yes. Yeah. That's the advice he gave me. Do be different to the other orthodontists. So I'm heavy lingual, so I do a lot of lingual orthodontics, and that's great because no one else can be bothered.
And it's controversial in a way, because some orthodontists don't even really believe in lingual,
I mean, it's because can't do, won't do, It's what's interesting is I had a lot of, it's a hierarchy in the hospital, isn't there? And if they can't do it, you can't do it. If they are in the NHS, you can't leave the NHS. The advice I was given, I had a few problems during my training. I was actually a very good student. I decided to stay single for 3 years, just really dedicate my life to, doing all of this work and stuff.
Can I ask you something? Bit provocative question, but I get a lot of messages from women, mainly medics actually, concerned about family, concerned about having babies, concerned about this, and they say, I've dedicated so many years to studying because I had to get through my specialty training. Do you regret that? Do you think making the decision to be single is necessary, or do you think that it was, a mistake, as it were?
We have the path that we have, okay? I got into ortho, so what's the choice? I know myself. I know that I'm easily distracted. My choice is meet someone, get married during specialty training, have my kids during training, or not. They're your two options, aren't they? I know myself. I know that I would do it this way, and I don't regret doing it this way. There was that regret when I turned 30, going, oh my God, I haven't got anyone, I haven't got a house, I haven't got a car, I haven't, all the stuff I thought I would have when I was 18. I was doing so well when I was 18, hit 30, and I might as well be 18. Do you know what I mean? You've got your own ortho and everything. What do you really have? Do you have the relationship and et cetera, et cetera? The number of specialist orthodontists that are single or
so true
can't find someone, the women especially, Asian women who, they're on second wave, like on the divorce spectrum, like that way, because in the culture, you should have got married between 20 and 30 or whatever it was, So the fact that, I met Raj at 31. We went to uni together, fine, we knew each other before, but we got together 31, I'm 38 now, I've got a 1-year-old, I've got a 3-year-old. I've done things a lot later. Not everyone can get pregnant, I'm a one-hit wonder, fine. Like, not everyone has that luck. That's why they have to freeze their eggs, go through other things, blood tests, etc. And then you've got the pressure of career versus, can you have it all? Can you have it all?
The thing is,
no.
I really struggled as well during university because all my friends started dating. So I had this narrative. First of all, I worked really hard at school. I partied. We had cool boys' schools we used to hang out with, like Highgate, UCS. I'm sure you know all those boys' schools. And I was really focused, and I was like, no, I'm going to get into dental school. Then I thought I would go into dental school. Then I thought it was going to be a Disney situation. Someone's going to see me fall in love, and then it's going to be the end of it. And then actually I had to be at uni more, right? Because all the girls I lived with, none of them were dentists, right? So they had longer summer holidays, longer holidays in general. I couldn't date as much, and I constantly went out because I made it, but I feel it was a lot harder to sustain a long-term relationship. I did meet my long-term partner when I was 23 and we stayed together.
Harder than what?
Then harder than my friends. Do you see what I mean? They were dossing around a bit at university, going out, getting wasted, meeting people, doing all of those experiences. And the thing is that that's why lots of dentists paired off together, dentist date dentists, because they knew the reality of the difficulty of dating someone that wasn't a dentist, as it were, getting up, being in clinics, less summer holidays, all those different things. So I really understand why people did that, and I think that there is a pressure because by the time you've graduated, and even if you go into specialty training, you're 27, 30.
And it becomes a gamble, doesn't it? Do you really want to be an orthodontist? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be at home with your kids? And, we know we're going to go on to, the nature of my lack of mat leave, but, what are you going to do? Who are you marrying? What, things like even nursery fees are expensive, mortgages are expensive. You need to work out so much in a relationship and in a couple in terms of your finances, essentially. Can you afford everything? Then if you do have kids, will you be sending them to private school or not? There's so many different things that you need to factor in and then make that decision backwards and say, did I make the right choice? What's important?
What about, look, you tell me, both of you tell me, these days, there's a lot more single career women, if you want to say.
Sure.
Yeah. And some of them by choice, no?
Yeah, I think so. But like, really, I was just listening to a podcast now with Jay Shetty and Esther Perel. And Esther Perel was talking about really interesting thing where the world that we live in now makes it so much more difficult because the stuff that we have to navigate through is so different to our parents' generation. And she said, like, for example, people want to find a soulmate on a dating app, and that in itself is a contradiction.
Why?
Because you're trying to make capitalism and spirituality meet. I've never thought about it like that, because a dating app is capitalism, right? People are trying to because they've created an app to make money. That's the whole idea. And then spirituality, the idea of finding your soulmate. Do you see what I mean? So actually it's a contradiction itself. It's a really interesting podcast. And then she talks about all these different things that the comparison starts.
No, what I'm saying is though, today compared to
but this is
20
the whole
years
point.
ago,
But this is the
what's
whole,
the difference?
But this is the whole point, because, well, first of all, women have more choices. We have more choices. And I think the other thing is that women have more of a voice and they recognize their worth. But it's
So there we go. You have more choices. You've got a voice. You use that choice and that voice to be single. So that's that sort of decision to be single. Yeah. I'm saying there's definitely a lot more women like that I come across. But also, is it that it's harder to find a soulmate?
Do you know what, this world isn't really built for women in terms of being a career woman and doing the rest of it. You know, we've got the 3:00 pickup. That's not normal. If you've got a 9-to-5 job, you've got, you know, I read the other day that rooms are colder by 5 degrees based on the metabolic rate of a 45-year-old man, not for a woman. You know,
Really?
everything is gauged for men.
That's so
in life.
wild.
So I think women just basically, you know, they struggle. They're trying to survive in a male-dominated world, especially if they're a career woman. You know, who are you going to be partner or are you going to be partner is constant. So time flies, doesn't it? Time just goes away with you, and you're such a dominating character by the end of it because you're just, you know, survival of the fittest for so long that actually when you try and find someone, will that guy put up with a woman like that sometimes, you know, where you're calling all the shots or you're so dominating or opinionated or, you know, trying to shout the loudest, you know. There's all of that kind of conflict that you have with the male. Like I'm a career woman, but I'm also that person, you know. I'm horrible to my husband. I'm not gonna lie. Like he's, you know, I feel terrible. I'm terrible to him. He's like the nicest person in the world. Do you know what I mean? And because I'm so stressed by this clinic, this email, this thing all back, and I'm so like focused on work so much of the time because obviously they're, you know, high-paying patients, etc. All I do is snap. And my 1-year-old snaps now. She doesn't even talk, but she goes to nursery.
Yeah, but is it being a woman that makes you that? I mean, you could be a super focused man and have the same problem. Look, I understand childbirth. We've talked about this, right? Having a kid, is different for a man than a woman. Yeah,
totally. It changes your whole life.
Of course. Yeah, and you can see that particularly when the second one comes along. I find the first one kind of fits into your life a bit.
Yeah.
Once the second one comes along, there is no you.
Game over. Yeah.
Well,
but the question is this, that surely today is the best time to be a woman.
I disagree, because I think that you need to be.
It's a lonely time.
I think you need to be in your masculine and your feminine at the same time. Like I've never felt
but
more.
men
I've
need
never
to-
felt more pressured to be a successful businesswoman, and now then to be like the perfect wife and the perfect and the immense pressure.
It's that chase of perfection that's the problem, right? And is
But
that a female thing?
No, you've got to be at peace with yourself and be like, well, you know what? Some days I'm not a good wife or a good mum or a good orthodontist. Do you know what? But I'm a human, and you have to be at peace with yourself. And I you know, when people are stressed and they ring me up and they offload, and I'm like, throw it in the bin. That's literally my saying. Just throw it in the bin, start again, focus, and just refocus everything again. And tomorrow you might be an exceptional mum, an exceptional, you know, I took my kid to the wrong birthday party on Saturday. Took her down the hill, you know, with my birthday presents. No one chucked me out. Didn't know any parents. Got a phone call from up the hill. Wrong soft play, Annie.
Yeah.
I'm such a shit mum. Why would it be me? But actually, that's my personality because I know myself.
Well, let's talk about that in dentistry, because you and I have talked at length about this issue, right? So first of all, what do you think was one of the most life-shaping experiences you had during your training that affected your mental health but also helped you grow?
So I thought I was very good as a trainee orthodontist. Turned up, never called in sick, managed multiple clinics. You know, when people Other people called in sick. I thought I was really good, got my thesis out, published it in the European Journal. You know, I was finally the model student, like finally after all these years. And then I went for my ARCP. Now, what an ARCP is a big, long boardroom with all these consultants around it. And they basically, there's two places, the deanery and the college. They're two different things. So the deanery give you your training number, and that's how you get your 30 grand salary. Yeah. And these training numbers are like gold dust, and that's how you get your ortho post. Okay. So you're not paying, you're just a salaried dentist essentially. Then you've got the college, which are all the consultants and the profs, etc. They have their own politics, they've got their own stuff going on, fine, that's not my business. I turned up to this ARCP going, I'm killing life, I'm teaching all the international students, you know, separately, you know, going on holiday. Yeah, you failed, you're a trainee in difficulty. I'm like, bloody what? What are you talking about? I'm a bloody and I literally saw Prof. Goben looking at, you know, going through my folder going, why the hell's Annie here? What's going on? Like,
What?
So the 3 years that I decided to do ortho was the time that they decided to go online, and a bit of an experiment, the online kind of portal they have these things called DOPS and mini keks, and can you put a separator in? Yep, tick. Can you put a band on? Like all this kind of, anyway, you have to do a certain number to competencies, they call them, yeah? Not the fact that you're working in a peripheral unit, like, you know, seeing 100 people a day, trying to kind of get all of the peripheral stuff going on, because when you're a trainee, when you're an STR, you're put out in the sticks, you're not based at guys. The main central hospitals are based for the internationals because it's a business, yeah. They're paying 80 grand a year, so therefore they get London, they get their flats, everything in London. Then we're getting paid, so we're pushed out to the sticks. So it's just how it works, and more so nowadays because for the government to get the employment rate down, they're pushing more people into education. So it's all politics, okay. So turn up to my ARCP. And they're like, yeah, you are not allowed to sit your M-Orth, number one, this was January, this is April. I was ready to sit my M-Orth. And we had this thing called a conjoint exam, which meant you got your master's and your M-Orth in one exam. So I was like, by May, got my life back, great. Nope, they took that away from me in one thing. And it's because I didn't do one DOPS and one KEX. That's all it was. 2 pieces of paper. And my consultants they were there sometimes, migraines sometimes, you know, chasing them to sit in a room and watch you put something in the mouth. You know, it's impossible. Do you know what I mean? And the internet was crap. So I was just like, there's a lot of things, but I could have gone back into that room after that decision and cried. So I thought about it. They sent me out, came back in. I thought, okay, how am I going to react to this? And in life, you must always listen, then think, then speak. Always. Instead of being a girl about things. That's what I always say. Don't be a girl about things, just think. Yeah?
Don't be reactive, be proactive.
Yeah, just think. And I said, so do I get a refund? I was like, I've had 2 professors sign me off to sit my M-Orth. They've signed me off because I'm competent. They've signed all the papers. I want my refund. For the exam, it's about 3 grand or something, you know? And they were like, what? Like, is that what you're going to say to us? I was like, well, yeah, because actually I've got nothing to prove. I was like, I've finished everything. I've literally publishing before everyone else in the European Journal for my masters. Get off my back. I'm sick of you guys. Literally, enough. Then I cried. Obviously, I went back and I cried. Went back to Prof. COVID. I was like, what's going on? Like the next day, they wouldn't let me sit it in June because they were trying to make an example of me. And so the next one would have been September, and then the week after that, you give back your training number. So they made a political issue out of an example, and I knew that this was a game. I figured it out. I was like, this is not about me anymore. This is a game, you know?
So surprised you found that out. And I think that like making an example of people is such a detriment to mental health. And I think that our governing bodies and those bodies that protect the public, to make an example is one of the most dangerous things that they can do. And I've seen dentists and doctors become suicidal because like the GMC or GDC put them through something to make an example of them. And I actually don't agree with it. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like I hear it time and time again, and you see someone and sure, they've not behaved perfectly, but there is zero room for the fact that you're dealing with a human being. And I think this notion that you're guilty until proven innocent is quite dangerous. It should be the other way around.
The problem is we're in a profession.
Yeah.
That a profession has a certain number of things that make it a profession. There are problems with it, like these, but also there's massive barriers of entry, barriers to entry for anyone else. It's not like we're opening a pizza shop Tom, Dick or Harry can open a pizza shop across the road from us. There's massive barriers to entry to being a dentist, and even bigger barriers to entry to being an orthodontist. So a profession, you've been to the GDC, it looks like a courtroom.
But no other country has it, right?
Well,
As in, like, no other country has it. But my point is this making an example of people. And like she said, it's a political decision.
It becomes that way because in a courtroom, sometimes people are made examples of to define what the law is. It's just the way it is sometimes. I get it.
You have to see the bigger picture. You have to. You can't be like, this is about me.
Yeah, I'm really bad at that.
But yeah, and like...
So how did it shape you, that experience? Were there benefits that you got from that experience? Like, did it harden you?
It didn't. Well, even more so, turning into a flipping brick, like a sink at sea. It didn't harden me. It made me think, what the hell is this? I'm definitely not working for the NHS. Screw you. This is an NHS hospital. I was told that I wasn't allowed to apply for private. I had to wait 6 years, get experience for 6 years in the NHS before I could be a private orthodontist. Screw you. So I basically did a master's looking at websites, and this is interesting to me. Obviously, I did a master's on it. Looking at GDP to specialist provision of orthodontics in the UK at that point 10 years ago. And that was when 6 Month Smile first came out, and it was... Invisalign
wasn't as big then, was it?
It was just 6 Month Smile, and it was limited treatment objectives just starting, and there was all the hate on, oh my God, I can't believe GDPs are doing ortho. At that point 10 years ago, it was a 50-50 flip a coin whether a GDP or a specialist was doing the work, right? And that's why I got published straight away, because I went through hundreds of websites and looked at sort of scoring and toolkits and tried to work out what was going on. And what I noticed, and this is a personality thing, is that GDPs, or people that are good at putting themselves out there, i.e. you, example Rhona, versus a typical specialist who's got literally the most cardboard website, and then at the bottom, I'm a specialist orthodontist, don't you know? Look at all my da-da-da-da, you know? They're not going to get people through the door. That's a marketing,
disaster.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the hell is that? And I noticed that straight away. I was just like, the all singing, all dancing, bright, vivid people in the world are the people that are going to get further. And these people that think that we work for them, or I've got my M.O., therefore I'm God attitude, let's see what happens, mate. Like,
it's very mature of you to think that back then, because I think GDPs still do get a lot of hate. And, I will ask you the question, should GDPs be providing ortho?
Yes, they should be, because guess what? I teach on 3 diplomas. I work for a lot of different academies, BPP, etc. I've been teaching dentists since the system failed me. Yeah? And I teach dentists because...
Normal dentists?
Yeah,
GDPs, yeah.
There's loads of them. Yeah. Loads of courses that we teach on, and it's hands-on and it's theory, and I'm the clinical person because I do so many clinics. Now, the way I teach, you can ask any of my students, because it'll be, you'll see someone somewhere. It's a certain way that they will understand the limits of what's going on. Now, as long as you believe there are good dentists, bad dentists, good specialists, bad specialists, you can do anything you want, okay? I've seen some of my GDPs, absolute donuts, and I'm like coming out of it fuming, going, oh my God, I've repeated that 5 times. What don't they get? But yet they're happy. They've got the bravado just to stick on brackets. And you're like, you're not safe. What are you doing? And it's for me to pull them back and be like, no, this is a referral thing. And then I have to bring in complaints and GDC and litigation. And I have to talk about all of that to make them understand. Or I have people that completely understand what I'm saying, and to the the detail that I know another specialist doesn't care, because the referrals I get from other specialists who don't care about TMJ, who don't care about adult ortho, who don't care about bruxism, or failed restorations on one side because of an asymmetry or occlusion or anything. I can see what's happening, where I can see that the specialists are getting lazier and they're using their M.O. and they're using... I know it's bad for me to say that, but there are some that just are happy within the bubble that they are. I am a specialist, therefore I am. But then you've got the dentists that are multidisciplinary. They can do everything. They understand everything. So if you can convert them and give them the different hats, you will be winning, because every GDP in the country is doing Invisalign. So therefore, they need to be safe. You can't take it away from them now. You can't bitch and moan about it anymore.
You've got to work with it. It's the same people like moaning about social media and whether dentists should be on it. It's like, it's here and it's not going away. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, it's here. So either, you go with it or you leave it, and you can't hate on the people that put themselves out there. I do want to also ask you, Annie, because obviously one thing we talked about. So Raj is the dentist. When did you meet him?
When I was 18.
Oh yeah, they met when they were 18, they rekindled. But when did you get married?
When I was 32.
And how did you feel as a woman being 32, and how did you feel about motherhood at that point? When did you have your kids? Talk us through that.
So I basically, if I'm honest, didn't actually want kids at that point at all.
Was that rare?
What, to not
within
want...
your family, within your community, within your culture?
I mean, I'm a Patel. There's like, you know, another kid, number 62, like no one cares. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the amount of nieces and nephews, and it's just the way it is. So I wanted my life back at that point. So I don't know what happened, but I know what happened, but he basically had this conversation with me after we got married. He's like, no, Annie, don't you remember you said you wanted 3 kids? I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's your ex. That's definitely not me. I definitely didn't want, you know. And then I actually had a miscarriage after 4 months after we got married. Mm-hmm. And when I felt pregnant, I was devastated because I was like,
now I'm pregnant.
Oh, now I've just got married. Now it's that one thing after another with me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then I was okay about it. It kind of, you know, I was fine. And then basically Leela came, you know, I got pregnant with Leela a few months later again. It's like, well, actually, I do want this kid. So it was kind of like...
Did it change your life?
What, having Leela? Having a mini-me? Somebody exactly like me to argue with me. My mirror version. Yeah, it did change my life because she was a COVID baby. Mm. So she's a COVID baby. So what that means is that 3 months... So I have... obviously, we've talked about I had HG with my second kid.
So that's like what Amy had, yeah?
Yeah, hyperemesis.
Yeah.
So with Leela, I had what I thought was HG, but it was actually move into the toilet, chain yourself there, and just, that's it, your life's over. For 6 months I had that, and I was very sick at work. Now, the main support network I had at work were my nurses. My nurses, oh my God, whether they've had kids or not, they could see how sick I was, you know, with patients, because the nature of my job is I cannot be sick. I'm a robot. I must turn up. Even if it's power chain, even if it's something, the types of patients I treat, I can't be a human, I can't be a mum, I can't be giving birth even, yeah? You both know that, you know, I don't have mat leave for either of the kids either. So, you know, I'm constantly being pulled back into work. So that does affect you in a lot of ways. What's the question?
So, well, the question was, did it change your life?
Yeah, it changed my life because I went from COVID to actually... What's the setup here? If a private specialist or a private dentist, I guess is a bit easier because you can get someone in to cover bits like exams and fills and stuff. But what's the system? Is there someone that can locum for you while you be a mum? Or are you going to be judged for not being a mum because you are at work? What happens, you know? So Leela was a kind of test situation, the 3-year-old. Got a locum in, not a very good locum, couldn't do any lingual, got a lot of complaints, hadn't seen the patients for 3 months during lockdown. I ended up being called on the day I went into labour in the morning to say, actually, can you get back in? And I'm like, kind of, you know, 40 weeks pregnant, but, you know. Went into labour that evening, basically, after that phone call. And then I knew I had to get back to work because I'd had that phone call in the morning, and I knew there was shit had hit the fan, seriously, you know. I basically opted against a C-section because of the recovery. So it's 6 weeks, isn't it, for a recovery? And this is all, you know, I'm not an NCT person. I don't read books. I just go with the flow. It's just every pregnancy is different. Everyone is different. Yeah. Everyone copes differently. So at one point, Leela basically turned around and they were like, you're going to need to go to theatre and we're going to have to do a C-section. I was like, you are not doing that, I need to get back to work. Like, literally, I was like, do anything you can, but not that. So she ended up being a forceps delivery and an episiotomy, which is basically C-section the other way around kind of thing, like another cut. But I went with that, and then I did go back to work 2 weeks later. So 2 weeks later means couldn't sit on the saddle chair because of my stitches. It meant that complete circadian dysfunction because you're not sleeping. It means when you're thinking about your kids, like, how are you going to feed your kids?
What was the imperative that meant you had to go back to work? Because it was your practice and it was falling apart because the locum wasn't good enough?
Yeah, my patients.
Because, you know, I hear your story here, yeah, and I don't know if you remember stories of your grandparents or whatever, yeah, but there were, back then, a woman would have a child and they would tell her to go to bed for 40 days.
Really?
Yeah. It's a cultural thing, that is. You're not allowed out the house for the first month.
They would stay in hospital for 10 days or something.
I think it's unnatural. I think it's unnatural the way we go. My boss that owns her private practice in Westminster, she went back to work after a month.
So it's a common story you hear. In this room, I've heard this I've heard this story commonly, yeah, but we do have to question that, what is the priority in life, right? Because, our work is that way inclined.
They own us, though.
Yeah.
We don't.
Our patients own us.
Our patients own, and it's
Yeah, it's the best thing about not being a dentist, by the way.
What you now, that's what you feel.
The best thing about not being a
Yeah,
dentist.
because Payman was originally a practicing dentist. So I don't know if you knew that.
I kind of got the gist.
Yeah,
But the best thing about not being a dentist is not having to turn up. It really is.
But you know what? The thing is, I saw even Kyle Stanley, who's an advocate for mental health, who's basically cut down his clinical dentistry to 1 day a week.
Yeah.
He wrote a thing. It got thousands of likes, and it said, we should provide a service to our patients, not be servants to our patients. And the thing is, I think a lot of people feel that we feel like servants. And again, I think it's the way that the institution is and the way that we've been built. And as I said, like, it's just ridiculous. And sometimes, like, for example, I had a patient, I did nothing wrong. Like, I did the most beautiful bonding case on her. Her before and after was like mental. And she basically, and she was a bit strange in the chair. So I was like, I got a bad hunch. So we followed her up for like 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, she was like complaining that she didn't like them, that she thought they were this and that. So we said, come back for an adjustment because it's just bonding. She said no, she didn't want to come back. She didn't feel. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to call her bluff. Come in. I'll remove all the bonding and you can get a refund, because that's what she wanted. And she refused to do that. So we booked her in with my associate, because then we're like, okay, fine, go see the associate if you don't want to see Rhona again. As soon as she walked through the associate's door, she was like, you're not removing anything. Imagine if you hate something that much, wouldn't you be in that chair trying to get it adjusted? Refused to get, so he did like minor like polishing. And then she was like, no, I still want it. So I called my indemnity and I was like, what do I do at this point? Because I don't really know like what to do, because I don't think that she deserves rent. And obviously the immediate thing indemnity say is, guess what? Refund. I've done nothing wrong.
That was back then, right? Was it?
No, this was like a few months ago.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I was just like, do you know what? I can't be bothered with the hassle. I can't also be bothered. And I just said, I'll refund, because I didn't want my indemnity to go like inflate or whatever. But I'm like, and I was trying to explain this to my partner, and he was like, but I don't understand. He couldn't get his head around the fact that we just do this.
But isn't it easier sometimes just to give some money back? Isn't it just for your own sanity?
But it annoys me because we've done the work and done it well.
I know. I mean,
It's just part of the business, man.
You know what? When I talk to my students, I literally, when they get upset about complaints and things, I say, look, you're making X amount of money in a year. Let's talk about numbers, okay? Take 5% of your growth, and that money is like a tax bill. It's a separate thing for complaints.
It's a bit like worrying about when you're on holiday, you're not making money.
No, I never do now.
Yeah, but people really stress about that. Oh, the cost of this holiday is the cost of the holiday plus my lost earnings. It's a similar thing. Take 5% of your earnings and that's your holiday time. Yeah.
You need to have a holiday. I'm going on holiday on Sunday, and I'm so grateful because every patient I've seen in the last week is like, do you know what? In the time that you've been doing my braces, you once said you're going on holiday, Annie, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Annie, what's the worst thing about being an orthodontist? Because the good parts of it seem obvious, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what is just I imagine when I was a dentist, I did a bit of Invisalign, and I remember people becoming pickier and pickier and pickier.
Yeah.
As they got near the end.
But I think it's...
Is that it?
I mean, you need to be confident with your wire bending. I work with some specialists that can't wire bend, and I'm like, well, what the hell are you a specialist for then if you are repositioning brackets, because that's expensive. I think it's knowing the red flags and the green flags,
In personalities?
That's the worst thing.
The worst thing, yeah. That's the worst thing about ortho, because everybody that's coming for ortho is either got a deadline, getting married, there's always something. It's a very cosmetic nature. There's and then the costings, like, if they're missing teeth, the implant plan, the soft tissue, hard tissue, all of the grafting, plus your ortho, plus your cosmetic, being able to sell big treatment plans and being competent at saying, ABC, this is what you need, and having it all like informed consent at the beginning, quick quotes, knowing what's going on. I think that's hard. I think it's hard for a lot of orthodontists to be able to talk money, because you're not taught that. We're not taught the business of dentistry, are we? So I think it's being able to say it and say, you know what, I can't change the shape or colour of your teeth. If you want anything else, there's something extra that you need to do, bit of whitening, bit of composite, whatever it is. And having open discussions with patients and not fearing them. There shouldn't be a hard sell in ortho, in private. It should be, these are your options. If you want to take it or leave it. And they always come back to you anyway, So that's taken me a long time, though. It's taken me a while to get to that point, because I remember at the beginning when I first started, it was like, ha ha, all your impressions are getting failed by incognito because, you know, you're not putting the wafer on properly or whatever it was before we had scanners. And I'd just feel shit. I'd just be like, look, I'm in a man's world and in private practice, just got out of M-Orth. I was told to go to the NHS and I was like, sod off. And actually everybody I work with are 10 years older than me and they're men and they've obviously been around, they know what they're doing. I clearly don't know what I'm doing, but are those people going to support me? And you know, women that empower each other, they're the people you keep around you. Men, and you know, it's different. You're different species within the same practice sometimes if you're both ortho. So you don't get that support sometimes. You know, people, I find men, no offence, but they keep their cards really close to their chest. Like even when they're teaching, they give you sort of the ingredients to a cake, but then don't tell you what type of flour. You're like, well, how am I going to know? How am I actually going to know?
Do you know what's that? It's really interesting. I never thought about that, but I had one of my students in. So obviously I've got my Dr. Rhona Academy, and one of the things they love is like my shadowing days. And then this girl goes to me, you're so generous with your knowledge. Like you put so much in the modules. I was like, what does that even mean? You know, and she was like, but you go on courses and people don't tell you certain elements because they're worried you're going to like start your own course or steal it. But I was like, but that's the whole point. Like, I don't care about sharing my knowledge because I'm like, there's plenty enough to go around. You know what I mean? So I found it really strange, but I think you saying that like confirms that.
So, yeah, it's difficult, and you're not going to, unless you ask someone for help, you're never going to get it. People can't, in every way, mentally, like literally work-wise, unless you ask somebody the question. We know no question is a stupid question. You have to say it, but you have to say that. Like, ask me the questions because nothing is a stupid question. Just ask me, even though you're like, that's a fucking stupid question. Like,
but I actually disagree. I think there's such a lack of camaraderie, like within the industry as a whole, like men and women. So for me, like for example, I've had more hate from like female dentists, do you know what I mean? Like people that don't support, like will say things, and like, and even the male ones as well. Like there is a lack of camaraderie within the profession.
But what do they not like about you? Have you pinpointed?
I don't know.
But
I mean, should I even care? Do you know what I mean? Because I have the people that I care about are the general public. I don't really care about the dentist. As long as I have a team that works well and provides the best care for my patients, why should I think about like getting the approval of other dentists?
It does bother you though.
No, it does, but I think you need to work on yourself. I feel like you need to work on your own building your strength because, you know, I mean, you've asked me in the past, mental versus physical strength, are they correlated? Well, you're physically very fit, you know, look at you, but is that a correlation? Because mentally, are you there?
No. And that's why I continuously, but the other thing I want to ask you on, you know, as we come towards the end is what sort of tools have you had in your toolkit to build up the mental resilience that you have? So I know you box, but do you want to tell us as well what you do to help your mental resilience?
So the biggest problem I have is no sleep, because I've got, you know, last night I was mentoring 8:30 till 10. Then I've got my baby, and then, you know, I'm at work all day, and then I usually box on a Wednesday from 6:30 to 7:30. So 6:30 to 7:30, get back, mentor 8:30 till 10. Then I'm up with my kid. You know, there's no sleep. So it's delta waves. So you don't know if you know what they are. So if you put into YouTube delta waves, they get you into your deep sleep and your non-rapid eye movement faster. So if you're only going to have 4 or 5 hours of sleep, it gets you there a lot faster. So it helps you with basically your circadian dysfunction and, you know, things like Parkinson's and, you know, all the other stuff that helps schizophrenia and all the stuff that happens from not having enough sleep. So that's really important because I can't change that. That's my life. I'm not going to have sleep. I'm working and I've got a baby and I've got a 3-year-old. That's not going to change. So you take what you have and then you say, well, how can I change things? I do 5 a.m. club, as you know, so I don't sleep basically. By doing 5 a.m. club I get all my house bits done in the morning, but I also walk to the train station, so that's for my serotonin. So it's a 40-minute walk from my house to the train station to get to work, and that sorts me out for the morning, gets my steps in as well. Obviously I box at somewhere called Regan's. So Regan's fight championships. I actually spar, male sparring. Amazing. 3-4 times a week.
My goodness, you're busy.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. I know.
You are busy.
But and
2 babies. Can we just talk about that?
So when we say you can't have it all, what's had to give? Your sleep.
Yeah, my sleep. I think my sleep
I
and my
couldn't do that,
attitude,
though.
sometimes I snap a lot, you know, and I get migraines now quite a lot. So I think where I now need to go to my boxing because I am an angry person. When I'm punching, I feel the day, that shitty patient, that shitty receptionist, that anything, that stupid email, like it, you know, the amount that we're dealing with, because now everything is so online, you need to get it out. And
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm sparring with the boys, sometimes, you know, when I first started, I was like, you know what, look how small I am. They're really going to punch me. And to be fair, I did get a few punches. I'm like, oh, I got boobs, don't punch me, you know, that kind of thing. But as time has gone on, I've realised actually some of these boys, they've got all the strength but no stamina. Yeah, so they've got no cardio. I can do 7 rounds at 3 minutes. They've got the strength and they're trying to prove something to me. But why do you need to prove something to me? It's all about technique, and it's about coordination, it's rhythm, and it's these things that kind of keep you going and floating. The other thing, you know, obviously I like art. I paint. I'm an oil on canvas type of girl. I write poems when I'm feeling stressed. All the Gaza stuff's
writing.
really affected me. So I've been writing anything that really triggers me. You know, when I'm scrolling, I then get it out by writing poems. And a few people do follow my poems. I'm like, oh,
I love that. I love that.
So yeah, I do a bit of that. You know, there's only so much I can do. You can't just have all the hobbies in the world when you're...
In a nutshell, what can you do with lingual that you can't do with Invisalign? Why do people opt for lingual instead of Invisalign?
Well, apples and bananas.
Yeah.
So Invisalign is obviously removable. A lot of patients that come to me don't want to be sticking something in and out, in and out. I've also had patients that have had aligners that are like, I've had fixed, I've had aligners. Now can I have something else? The types of patients...
Compliance.
Yeah. So the types of patients I have are client facing. They definitely don't want attachments on the front. They definitely don't want anything visible. They might be getting married so they can wear the lingual when they get married. You know, they're all kind of like that type, or they're on actors, you know, things like that. So then you have to gauge it and be like, well, actually, what's the worst thing that can happen? Fine, you can have a bit of a list. I mean, I use Incognito, which is completely customized. So, you know, it's pretty comfortable and pretty low profile. So it's great in that way, but it doesn't mean I don't finish with some aligners sometimes. It doesn't mean sometimes I don't whack on a bit of sectional labial just to kind of get the arch form out or whatever it is. Obviously with permission, because you know, they go lingual for a reason. Not enough people know about it, and there is this whole, because of the way dentistry is, oh no, lingual's crap, it doesn't work, or like everyone probably says, oh, Annie, all Annie does is slate bloody aligners, but it's not that. It's just
no, not at all, not at all. But that's why, like, look, I would have loved to do a quick fire round with you as well. Like we've been talking on for so long. I feel like we need a part 2, because I definitely wanted to talk to you as well as about myo braces and all that kind of thing. But you know, that's more of a
bit of a cult.
Yeah, like a dental. Yeah. I would have loved to ask you all those questions as well, because also, you know, there are a lot of dentists that I actually really respect, that have opened up something in me regarding these conversations about like the link between like breathing and mental health and like these appliances. And I think it's interesting because as well, like we've got to open our eyes. You know, there's even now discussions about like hydroxyapatite replacing fluoride, for example. And like we used to be like, no, it's only fluoride or nothing, and you're a weirdo and a quack if you don't like fluoride. But now I'm like, we need to challenge things, you know. So I think it's an interesting discussion, but something maybe for like a part 2.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Annika.
Okay.
It's been amazing, and you really are such a talented, amazing woman and such an inspiration. And thank you for sharing your like story and your knowledge. And yeah, and for those that are listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because the videos, the long form that everyone's been asking for, are going to be up on my YouTube channel, as well as on the main channels and on Dental Leaders. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Annika.